It's so nice to see everyone here. My name is Judy Jung, and I'm the Director of Product at XtremeLabs. And we are really excited to be hosting this MCT Meetup in May. And today, I'm really glad to be introducing and welcoming Robert McMillen as our co-host. XtremeLabs has had a long-standing relationship with Robert, and we've collaborated on a wide variety of projects together. But Robert is here today as an MCT with quite a few years of experience. We were just talking about how you're soon to become a 10-year MCT. And in addition to being an MCT, Robert is also a professor. So he also teaches in academic classrooms, and he's been teaching IT for over 20 years now. And he has advanced degrees in IT admin and management, and quite the long list of industry certifications. And he also runs a consulting practice called All-Tech One, and he is based in Portland, Oregon. So please help me welcome Robert. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks very much, Judy. And this is really a collaborative meeting, so feel free to, ask questions. Go ahead and type in the chat. Feel free to interrupt me. Don't worry about it. As AJ had pointed out, I'm wearing my MCT shirt, and it's really great. I really enjoyed being a Microsoft Certified Trainer for the past 8 years. Looking forward to my 10-year shirt that's coming, and let's just sort of talk a little bit about my experience, and I'd love to hear about your experiences as well. As Judy mentioned, my name is Robert McMillen, and I started out in IT in the 1990s. My first IT certification was the A+. Strangely enough, I was like the 750th person to pass the A+ certification, which of course now runs into the millions. And I took the test in Naperville at where their office was. It was really an interesting experience. So I did work as an IT administrator, as a sysadmin. I did that for several years, and then I eventually started my own company. And I ran that company for 17 years. It was called All-Tech One, as Judy mentioned. And I actually sold that company. Judy didn't get the memo, but I sold that company in 2017. And then I went more into full-time in creating educational materials and all that kind of thing. So I've lots of interesting jobs over the years. As I listed a couple of those here. And as you know, I started teaching. I teach Windows Server administration, and since I sold the company, I added more classes over the year. I now also teach Intro to Active Directory, networking, security, advanced security, business consulting, things like that, help desk sometimes. So feel free to connect with me at any of the sites that you see here in this list. So I'd like to talk about how you use your Microsoft Certified Trainer resources. I realize I don't fully use all of them because there's a lot of great resources, but I found several of them to be very useful to me. I make a lot of video courses for various companies. So I use the ISO downloads from Visual Studio. So if you haven't checked that out, go to the Visual Studio login, and then you can use your MCT login to, go ahead and do that. And you can download the software and the licenses that go with them. And I found those to be, very useful for my courses. I've used so many of them actually that I've run out of activations, and I've had to request additional activations. So if any of you have done the same thing where you've used up all your activations in Visual Studio, you can send an email to Microsoft. There's a support link in Visual Studio that will allow you to make a request to get more activations if you need it. I've also utilized vendor deals over the years when they've been available. They haven't always been available. So the Veritas, for instance, I got on their beta testing program for backup exec, also for Camtasia, since I do a lot of recordings, things like that. They also got me on their beta as well, so I get the latest and greatest one. And then you can also take advantage of XtremeLabs, and I'm going to show you how to do this a little bit later on. So you can log in and get access to all the different courses at the XtremeLabs login. And you can use your MCT login to do that. You register, and then you'll have access to it. So I'm going to show you that in a little bit. I've used the certification discounts, which I assume a lot of you have done as well, for taking certification tests. And of course, I found that to be a really good deal. So if you haven't, tried that out yet, I believe you get half off or 75% off, and many times free. What I'll do is the first certification of the year, there's a little tip. First certification of the year is I'll email or send a request within the MCT lounge there, and I'll say, hey, this is my first certification test of the year. Please provide me a code for a free test. And they say, okay, here you go. And so my first test is always free. So, that's something that you might want to try if you have not done it before. So I don't know if does anybody else have any tips that they'd like to give, for certification tests, getting them free, getting them at a really low cost, and maybe what their favorite certifications are lately as well. Feel free to, pop in with information on that.
Yeah, I guess the MS Press books and ebooks discount is also very, very useful.
Yes. Is that like 50% off or something like that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Has anybody else got any good deals with any vendors? Yeah, if you have, just feel free to, any ones that I haven't mentioned, just go free and, pop in there. So biggest concern is an MCT. Of course, Microsoft does some things sometimes that we're like, why do they do that? So, I wanted to sort of, talk about a little bit of my concerns. I'd love to hear about what your concerns are, because these concerns do come back up to Microsoft, and Microsoft, if they're hearing it enough times, they're going to say something. I don't know if you guys got the MCT survey the other day, but I went and filled it out, and I filled in all my concerns, some of the ones we've been talking about here. So since we're all Microsoft certified trainers, we have enjoyed the renewal from Microsoft for free for the last couple of years. The MCT annual renewal fee has been free. And I'm concerned this year that we're going to have to once again pay, the fee, to renewing our Microsoft certified trainer certification. So I have not heard of Microsoft dropping that fee permanently or again in the future, but it looks like it's going back. I know that in the US, it's $800 a year. In some countries, it's only $100 a year, but obviously in some countries that could be a lot of money too. So it'd be great if Microsoft just dropped that renewal fee. I mean, we're already putting a tremendous amount of effort into training people to become Microsoft, technicians and administrators and things like that. It'd be great if they let that go. Another thing that I'm concerned about is the huge emphasis on Azure certifications. And although, we all know that the cloud is great and a lot of companies are moving to the cloud, but in the United States, only 20% of companies are completely cloud-based. So that means 80% of administrators that are using Microsoft products still have assets on premises and will for many, many years to come. Maybe, there won't ever be an end to that. Well, it's hard to say. So there has to be some way that we can convince Microsoft to, help us out, because we're still having to train people on how to use Microsoft products in infrastructure on premises. So it would really be great if they, once again started offering infrastructure certifications. And the only people that are really out there still training people to understand on-premises, type of infrastructure are colleges. Colleges don't change. They don't change on it, really quickly. just because Microsoft made a change. They're still going to continue teaching what they've been teaching for a while, which are the MCSE courses. Now they're just teaching them without the MCSE certification, and that's really unfortunate. And of course, video course training sites are like you'll see at LinkedIn Learning and things like that. Those are places where you can still get trained for on-premises infrastructure type things. So let's see. So currently the renewal is free. Oh, really? Okay. And when I saw the renewal, it still said it was $800 for the US, but that I could be wrong. Maybe there's some new information. So where do you teach? I would love to hear where everyone here teaches. I mean, you could be teaching online, you could be teaching at a college, you could be teaching at high school, you could be teach a lot of different places. So I teach colleges, but maybe some of you teach in a lot of different places I hadn't thought of. I also have a YouTube site that I started in 2010. I've just sort of added various different types of subjects, such as Windows servers, Windows clients, various different types of software. And I have about 4,000 videos that I've done over the last 12 years. It's funny how you do a few dozen here, a few dozen there, and all of a sudden you're in the thousands of videos. And I'm closing in on 50 million views, so which is a great accomplishment. So I started making video courses. Basically, because of the video courses at YouTube, I started making video courses for LinkedIn Learning. They contacted me and they said, "Hey, we see your videos on YouTube. Would you be interested in making video courses for us?" So in 2015, I flew down to the Santa Barbara area, and they had me do my first course. And it was great. So since that time, I've done almost 50 courses for LinkedIn Learning. And then also Pluralsight, they contacted me and said that they would like me to have them, do courses for them. I've done another bunch for them as well. And then I've got this really great course I'm super excited about. It's how to be a sysadmin. It's actually called The Roles of a Modern Sysadmin. So what LinkedIn Learning did is they sent all this camera equipment to my house, and I set it all up, set up the lights and everything. They gave me all these directions to set up all this stuff, and then they controlled it all remotely. I had about a dozen people from all over the country that were remoted in through a computer, and they were controlling the camera and the focus and the zoom and the recording and all that kind of stuff. It was very cool. So that one is about 5 hours long. Some of it is screen capture and some of it is live action is what they call it. So it's going to be translated into 8 different languages, and it's going to be released, we think, in June or in July or August is last I heard. So you can also teach through writing. Maybe many of you write blogs. Maybe some of you write books. I've actually got some books that are coming out this year as well. Again, on infrastructure, because that's what I do. I'm not a programmer. So I did speak to LinkedIn Learning, and they said that if you're interested, you can go into linkedinlearning.com and you can try out to be a creator. And they do it in all different languages. So even if English is not your first language, that's okay. Go ahead and check out linkedinlearning.com, and they said you can do a tryout with the video, and you don't have to have fancy video equipment. They'll actually send you the equipment. Now, Pluralsight's a little different. Pluralsight will actually require you have your own equipment, and most companies out there do. You have to have high-end equipment. Like this particular microphone is a Shure SM7B, and I've got a sound board and all these different things that go with it. But when you record LinkedIn Learning, they actually send that stuff to you. Then you've got websites, Twitter, all different kinds of social media where you can say that this is where you teach. I see Frederick showing the YouTube channel, and if you teach at other places, I would love to hear all about that. That's fantastic. So I've learned a lot of training tips over the years, and I want to sort of tell you about that. I'd love to have you share what your training tips might be as well. So I've included a few of my own. My first video tip is to not make the videos longer than 5 minutes if possible. So if you're doing videos on YouTube, if you're doing videos, various different places, try not to make them more than 5 minutes, because that's about how long people will be able to focus on your videos. So if you have a big course, maybe you make courses for Udemy. So if you have a big course and it's, say, 4 hours long, then you can break those up into smaller videos, because people don't necessarily want to scan through, hour-long videos to try to find the one thing that they want to learn. It's much better if you break them up and show what each of the different subjects are, and then people will go ahead and watch those particular videos only, and they'll be really happy that you saved them a lot of time. Don't swirl your mouse around. If you swirl your mouse around like you're seeing on here, it makes people nauseous. You don't want to do that. Instead, you can use arrow pointers. You can do that in either post-production in a product like Camtasia, or you can put them into your PowerPoint slides. Arrows work great there. So you never know who's going to be in your class watching your videos. So whatever your native language is, you don't want to use a lot of terms that can't be translated well. So you want to try to avoid confusing words and phrases, so they'll be able to understand you as well as possible. Now, personally, I like to come over prepared for the classes that I teach, because you never know if something will take much shorter than you think it might, and so I have some classes that where people engage really well. Like, I'm seeing all kinds of different chats, come up here, and people are engaging, well, and the class goes all the way to the end without any issues. But other times there's classes where almost no one engages, and then you run out of material very quickly. So having extra materials, can definitely really help. So, Judy, before I go on, are there some good questions that I might be missing here?
Let's see. So there's been some good sharing of other folks who have their own training and video channels.
Great.
And then there was a question from Saif about asking for some recommendations for Azure and security. So Saif, what kind of resources are you looking for? Is this more to help learn the subjects, or support for teaching? Okay, I see you just responded, for learning purposes. All right, well, does anyone have any good resources for learning Azure and security?
Yeah, I'll just chime in that I know that LinkedIn Learning has a lot. And if you, I'm not sure about other countries, but if you are a member of a college or university, or if you have a library card, then you automatically have access to LinkedIn Learning, so you don't end up having to pay for it. So feel free to use any of those ways of getting in without, paying the monthly fee.
I'll also do a quick plug for XtremeLabs. If what you're looking for is resources for learning Azure and security, XtremeLabs, my company, we offer virtual hands-on training labs. So if that's something that you're interested, so you can practice how to perform different roles for Azure and security, I can definitely reach out to you after this meetup.
Absolutely. And I'll also show you the XtremeLabs login, and where you can get in as an MCT and you can check out a lot of the different courses. So it's really great. Videos under 1 minute. It's interesting. YouTube did come out with YouTube, I think they're called Shorts. Is that right? Where if you do have under a minute and you do it from your phone, then it goes into a different bucket. You don't get the same type of revenue you get from regular YouTube if you're a YouTube partner, but they sort of give you, there's like a bucket of money that they, if whoever has the most amount of views will end up getting the most amount of money from this bucket, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, that is, but you'll have to use your phone. You have to do it vertically, similar to, say, like a TikTok video, that kind of thing. Library card. So you just have to contact your local library. Again, this is for sure in the United States. I don't know about other countries, but in the United States, you can just contact your library and say, hey, I'd like to get a library card. And sometimes you can even fill out the card online now, so you can do it online. You don't actually have to go in. Other libraries, you will have to go in and sign up. Very good. All right. So changes to training. I'd love to hear about what changes you see in training in the coming years. Up until last year, most of my college courses were taught using the students' computers. So they would put the software, that they would need to do their labs, we call them labs, where, basically we give them a set of instructions and then they have to perform certain tasks. The problem is that the labs require more and more virtual machines and the computers just can't handle them. And some computers aren't even capable of doing virtual machines. Sometimes they'll use buggy virtual machine software like VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. But now, what we've done in the past year is we've gone to labs and lectures using online lab products like XtremeLabs. So what we would do is take the learning module system, that's whatever you're using. It could be Moodle, it could be Desire to Learn, it could be Canvas, any one of those, and then you can have XtremeLabs, links to go out to the online labs and run those labs instead of having to put all of those resources on your computer. And they even have some Azure-based training as well, but I haven't checked that out myself. Maybe Judy can talk about that. Can you mention something about the Azure portion of that?
Sure. So in our Azure labs, I think that's something that is kind of taking over a lot of Microsoft certifications. Azure labs are just getting more popular by the minute. I know fundamentals level courses like AZ 900 and AZ 104. These titles are some of the most popular ones that we've seen, and I know they're some of the most highly in demand ones as well, in general across Microsoft. And I think some of the most what's really interesting about these subjects is it's really the access to Azure, because getting set up, just getting started, is maybe one of the hardest parts. Once you get access to Azure, whether it's setting up a trial account or we offer a Cloud Express Pass, which puts you into an environment that we fully manage and maintain. It kind of allows you to perform extra, try out the role for admin or for an engineer, just so you can start to get the flavor of it and get started. Did I answer that question, Robert?
Yes, thank you very much, Judy. Appreciate that. And I do agree. A lot of the comments here are saying we're going to more online-based training rather than in person. Absolutely. It's funny. I haven't, even though up until a couple of years ago, I taught on campus a lot. I haven't been on campus in so long, because they've closed them all down. I just finally got the email this week that I can go back to my office at the college and I can go pick up my stuff because I'm not going to have my office anymore. So it's if I do go back to teaching on campus, it's going to be very few classes. Almost everything's going to be online and using products like XtremeLabs. So when it comes to certifications, actually taking certification tests, I can see a lot more demonstration, based certification. So instead of just doing A, B, C, D, multiple choice, kind of thing, I can see a lot more demonstration based certification, which I'm really happy about because I think a lot of certification testers and students can memorize test answers available online. You can buy the answers online a lot of times. And by having demonstrations, they're not going to be able to do that, right? And then that makes certification trainers like you even more valuable because they're not going to be able to learn how to do this without folks like you and me. I remember the first CCNA, the Cisco CCNA test that came out, I think in the year 2000 or late 1999. So I took that one and it was all A, B, C, D, types of things. But now you actually have to go in and you have to type in commands and things like that. And it really makes it not necessarily a harder test, but it makes it so only people who really know Cisco will be able to pass that test. So I think that's, really useful type of things. As instructors, we may be offering open book tests, to our students. Like say you're a professor, an instructor in a college or a high school, something like that. I think we're all kind of going to these online quizzes, but unfortunately, a lot of the places don't have the money to pay to have them, watched by someone, a proctor is what we call them, to watch someone take the test because it's just too expensive. So we end up having them open book or open internet, and then we end up making the value of the quizzes much less because of the fact, students can look up the answers. So the only time you're really going to see tests that have any kind of value are going to be ones that are proctored. And then videos are a great way to, of course, pack in more learning in a shorter amount of time that will stick with certain learners better than books or books alone. What I find is it's really interesting. It's not necessarily a generational thing, but what I'm finding is it varies by person. Some people just learn better reading a book. Some people learn better watching a video, and some learn better having a live professor speaking with them or an instructor speaking with them. So we need to make sure that we have all those different ways of learning available. And I'm sure there's more ways than that, audio books as well and things. We need to make sure that all those different ways are available to students, so they can learn in the way that sticks best to them. If someone listens to a video and then they only remember, say, 2 or 3% of what they watched, then when it comes time to take a certification test, they're going to have a hard time. So maybe they'll learn better by reading a book. So sometimes you have to ask the students because they may not have even thought of what ways make them learn the best. So it'd be interesting to see how some of you are also, teaching people, and if you come to new conclusions about the way people learn. And there's all kinds of scientific studies that are constantly being done on these kinds of things. And I love the idea of training by labs. So you actually have to go in and you have to set up Active Directory, or you have to do, you have to program something. I think that personally is a way that sticks best with me. If I've actually done it and then somebody asks me a question about it, absolutely, I'll be able to answer that question. So that's me. Everybody has their own way. So there's some MCT news going on. Do I have any stories or tips for more immersive and interactive training? Well, here's one of my best tips for when I'm training people. And this is going to separate sort of the people who are training because they learned this knowledge by reading or something like that versus being out in the world. So when I'm training, similar to what I'm doing right now, if I'm talking to people and we're talking about, something that they need to learn, and say it's in a classroom and they're trying to get a grade, they're trying to, get their degree. What I find is when I have the PowerPoint presentation up and I'm just talking, they could easily be reading their email or their social media or something like that. But as soon as I bring up an example of how I used it, for instance, I'll talk about, say, remote desktop and the security issues of remote desktop, and all the different ways that you can secure remote desktop. I'm not 100% sure my students are listening, but I know this from teaching online and on campus. When I give an example of what happens if you don't secure remote desktop, that's when students really pay attention. So for instance, one time I got called by a company that was using people who were work released from prison to go sell satellite dish TV. And so they would come in on buses from the prison because they had a special arrangement where they could do a work release during the day. And they would come in and they would log in using remote desktop. Unfortunately, whoever set up every user with full administrator access. And so while the prisoners now, acting as call, folks, calling people about selling satellite dish TV, when they would call them up, they're now having access, of course, to people's credit card information and things like that. That's a big security issue. But the issue that I was called about was that around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the call prisoners, people, workers, they would get tired of working and they would shut the server down because they had full administrator access. And then for the last 2 hours before the bus would take them back to prison, they would go out and commit crimes in the neighborhood. They would go hold up 7-Elevens and steal money and do all kinds of illegal activities. And then the bus would pick them up, take them back, and they would go right back to prison. They didn't feel that they had much to lose, I guess, so they thought they would go ahead and do this. So the owner of the company called me up and said, "Hey, how do we fix this?" I came in with a team of folks and we locked everything down, and so that never happened again. But you probably paid a lot more attention to my example of how security does not, always work out with remote desktop if you don't know how to secure it properly. Then if I just read off, oh, okay, you need to go into the server and you need to, lock down this port and add multi-factor authentication and, all that kind of stuff. That's my way of making sure that students are listening to what I'm saying. And then a lot of them come back to me years later and they say, "Hey, I remembered that story you had. And I had something similar happen. And this is what I did about it." So I hope that helps you. And if some of you have been working in industry and then you go to start teaching, use that when we go to teach, because students will really pay attention to it. MCT News, role-based and specialty-based certifications can now be renewed for free. So this is great news for our students and for ourselves as well. Microsoft certified trainers can continue. This is another news that I got off the MCT website. Can continue renewing if they have the MOS, Microsoft Office Specialist certification, but they won't accept any new MOS candidates. So if you're already in it because of Microsoft Office Specialist, you can continue staying in the MCT program. There's a new certification you can earn called the Microsoft Azure Network Engineer. I'm actually kind of excited about that one. It sounds a little bit like an on-premises certification, but it's in the cloud. So I might already be halfway there. It might be kind of fun. Then let's see, we're all moving to Microsoft Learn and away from the dashboard. So I want to show you what's going there. Okay, so let's escape out of that. And let's go. All right, so this is the dashboard. Let me just take a quick look. People have any questions? Judy, is there anything that I need to respond to before we take a look at the dashboard?
Let's see. We did get some agreement about certifications and making it more demo based instead of just multiple choice questions. Makes a lot of sense for how things are changing with certifications. Also some insight into how sometimes online learning can be a little bit difficult, maybe even a little bit too much of the same thing for teachers and students if there isn't enough interaction. And also Sherry shared some additional resources that she likes to use for her teaching.
Great. Good to know. Well, thank you very much. So I'm sure all of us have been into our dashboard, and our dashboard tells us what our latest certification was. As you can see, I did this 2016 upgrade, certification. I've actually done some since that time. I don't know why it's showing this one, but that's okay. So it shows our exam providers, our certificates, and you can click on your transcript and your view badges. But we're moving to something new and different that I want to show you, which is the Microsoft Learn website. And you can get to it by clicking on the links at the top of your dashboard. So if you go to the learning dashboard that you're currently familiar with, go ahead and click on that link, because in the near future, it's all going to this new dashboard. So as you can see, I've just done a few things in this since they've come out with this. I've done a few things that I thought, were interesting. I wasn't, it was new to me at the time. I wasn't really sure what it was all about. So it shows that I have 4 badges. I have a trophy. I have a reputation. Clearly I haven't done a lot yet, but I'm going to be moving in this direction. if I click on the training link, you can see that what I did was I did several different modules. Now, these modules all had to do with the Microsoft Ignite, which came out last fall, right? Last November. And so I got the link in my email after going to some of the Ignite, live sessions, and it said, hey, you can do an admin challenge. You can, do some of these things. So as you can see, I did several of these different challenges, and it gave me badges because of that. This is not to be confused with actual certifications. Sometimes they'll offer you a free certification if you pass a certain amount of these modules. I don't know when they come up, besides Microsoft Ignite, but I just wanted you to be aware that they were here. If you don't see any here for you, don't worry about it. It just means you didn't click on that link. I see a lot more of these challenges coming up in the near future, though. Then there's certifications. Now, I have not yet linked my certification profile from this dashboard to this one. But when I do, I'm going to see all the different certifications, transcripts, all that kind of stuff from here get moved over to here. So you can feel free to do that if you want. If you don't do it by a certain amount of time, it will automatically happen for you according to what I've read. So don't, feel stressed if you haven't done it by a certain time, because it's just going to happen on its own. There is a section for questions and answers on this site, and achievements. As you can see here, the achievements are basically the same thing from the challenges link. It's just showing the badges. Again, this is nothing that you're going to really use on your resume or your CV, right? This is just stuff that came along because of what happened at Ignite. But in the future, that may change. You might actually see other types of badges, or maybe when you import from your certifications, maybe those will show up here as well. Not sure. Collections, nothing really here yet. And then transcripts, there's nothing here yet, much either. But, number of training hours that I've done, that kind of thing. So it just shows the hours that I spent on there. If you have any questions about this, I think I've pretty much given all the information that I know about it, but we definitely need to start moving to this new site that you see here.
And I think they were also moving the SkillPipe resources over to Microsoft Learn. That's what I heard on one MCT Meetup.
Oh, good. Okay, good to know. Anybody else? I wanted to go to labs.extremelabs.io, and feel free to keep putting your comments in. We'll absolutely get to those. So labs.extremelabs.io, and sign in. You can register with your MCT, login information, and then you can see all these great courses. So if you've never been to Extreme Labs, you can pick any one of these courses. Now, I've clicked on this 10967A. And it happens to be a Windows Server, course. So I just go ahead and click on that. It has a little description, that kind of thing. And then what happens is it launches the lab. So you're going to get a whole bunch. There's programming labs. There's all different types of labs in here. So what's going to happen now is it's going to launch the lab, and it's going to launch depending on whoever created this particular course, either one or more virtual machines, and they're going to be Hyper-V virtual machines. But your students may not even be aware of that. It's just launching virtual machines. Now, because of guest virtual machine capability, you can put virtual machines inside of virtual machines, which is great. And I think that's something that we requested a while back and was added in. You also get to see these fun little facts that you see here as the thing is loading. And then you can, go ahead and log in, and you're going to see this. So on the left-hand side, you can have your information about your lab, such as you can put in exercises that people need to do, and they have to check a box as they go through it. And then it tells you in directions on what to do to get through this lab. Now, if you click on the keyboard area, then you can switch between these two servers. So this particular lab has two servers. It has one called DC1 and one called Server 4. So I can, if I don't see the Control-Alt-Delete, I can click that button here. I can take a screenshot, which is great. And there's other things, here as well, such as restarting and great accessibility things as well, in case you have the need for accessibility, which of course, if you're in a college or a high school, you're definitely going to need to do that. Let's see here. I'm not sure if I'm typing the right password. Okay. Yeah. Whoever wrote this course, I'd have to probably go back into here and it'll tell me what the password is in here. So obviously the password they're using is different from mine. But anyway, that's sort of shows you a little bit about the advantages of using, these types of labs. And then what we've done is we've gone ahead and moved the labs from our computers, that the students were using to here. And then the students just log in and they run their labs and they do screenshots, answer questions, send them in, we grade them, and it's done. And you don't have to worry about students calling you to tell you that their computer crashed or they don't have enough RAM or not enough hard drive space or anything like that. So we've used this at the colleges where I teach, and it's been extremely helpful. So I know Judy would like to also chime in and say, some more things about what the offering is.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. So Frederick actually asked a really timely question. He said, how can we link the training conducted by MCTs to MSLearn, to the MSLearn platform? And so we're actually rolling out some new integration on our lab platform because obviously MCTs and learners and learning partners all need to fulfill a certain number of KPIs and things like that, which is really important to maintain your status. And so MSLearn is actually going to have some new KPIs. I know that their engineering team is currently working on it, and those will be rolled out in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, our lab platform is going to be integrating that so that when you access MSLearn through our site, we're actually going to be sending back your engagement with MSLearn content back to, if you're teaching as part of a learning partner, it'll be sent back to them, and we'll also be tracking your students' engagement as well. So that way Microsoft gets a record of that engagement and can count it towards any KPIs that they're tracking. So this is kind of still ongoing. We're still waiting for additional APIs, and we'll be scheduling some webinars where we'll demo how this works and how this affects you and the credit that you'll be getting in the next couple weeks. So if you're not already signed up to our newsletter, please reach out and we can get you signed up for that. We'll be announcing our webinar dates within our newsletters as well as on our website.
Excellent. And KPIs, key performance indicators, how do those work into XtremeLabs? You mentioned KPIs. I'm not sure everybody really understands.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at this point, I think MSLearn is mostly going to be interested in any kind of active engagement. So if you click on the link and you go to a particular piece of content on MSLearn, that's going to be counted as KPIs. I know long term, Microsoft has plans on wanting to track completion as well as accuracy on knowledge assessments, but I know that that's not quite there yet. At least in this initial phase, it'll just be on, have you engaged with the content? Have you opened up the link and gone to that piece of content?
Very good. And Judy, did you want to take over the share? So you wanted to show something as well?
So we're currently still testing through these through our integration. So we actually don't have too much to share just yet.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. I thought that I
no, that's okay. No, that's okay. We're still waiting for the next couple of next set of APIs to come out. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's this, the rest of the time that we have here is all for you. So I'd love to hear comments, questions, whatever it is that you would like to talk about as MCTs. Tell us your thoughts. And Judy, just let me know if I missed any questions that came up earlier as well, please.
Let's see. Sherry wants, it looks like Sherry's familiar with the lab platform. She pointed out that the password is in the info or Lab Actions menu. So that was from a couple different platform UIs ago. Now it's available within the lab instructions. Let's see if there are any other questions. William Cedric said that he joined a little bit late, but wanted to ask about the Azure Sandbox, as well as about what joining a classroom means on the lab platform. I answered it in the chat, but I'll go ahead and answer it out loud as well. So when you're an instructor and you are assigned to the lab as an instructor, what that means is you'll have access to the lab classroom, and all the students that you're teaching who are connected to your classroom will then show up on your account portal, and then you'll be able to see which labs they're working on, whether there are any active lab sessions that your students are in, and then you'll actually be able to go into their lab sessions and then either help guide them or see where they're getting stuck. So there's just a little bit more functionality for instructors who are teaching within a lab classroom.
All right. Again, this is your time, so feel free to ask whatever it is you need to know.
Hey, Judy?
Yep, I hear somebody.
Yeah, this is AJ. Judy, would you detail a bit more the differences between the Sandbox on XtremeLabs for Azure training and labs versus the traditional Microsoft Learn labs accessible? Because right now, for instructor preparation, I'm using Microsoft Learn, and I'm using courseware library, SkillPipe, and all of that offerings. But I'm actually using my Visual Studio, I think, money there to go get some Azure action. But I was not aware that XtremeLabs had sort of a sandbox.
Yeah, so we're the official providers for MCT Readiness Labs. So what that means is we sort of sort MCT usage into two categories. So the first one is if you are actively teaching a classroom. In that case, the expectation is that you would get access to a lab through your learning partner. Your learning partner is responsible for purchasing that and giving you access. But if you are using the labs as part of the MCT Readiness Program, which is, as you probably already know, one of the Microsoft programs, one of the benefits of being an MCT, then you get free access to our labs. And you mentioned the Azure Sandbox. So we provide something called the Cloud Express Pass. We originally started creating this because during the early stages of the pandemic, people used to use the Azure Pass, which is directly provided by Microsoft, but there were a lot of issues with the Azure Pass, especially for users from certain countries who couldn't access it. And then during the pandemic, there was kind of a lot of limits, a lot of throttling of what Azure Passes could do, and some of them just stopped working. So the CP is meant to be not a perfect replacement for it, but the Cloud Express Pass does allow you to complete the exercises within our labs. So we have been rolling out some different pilot programs in terms of giving MCTs access to Cloud Express Pass. So I'm definitely happy to talk to you more about that offline. CEP is something that we still want to get more feedback from MCTs about. So I'd love to just talk a little bit more about that with you. And feel free to reach out after the MCT meetup as well.
Thank you.
And Mark was asking about legacy course delivery in the future.
All right. Yes. So Mark asks, will Extreme support legacy course delivery in the future? That's a good question. So as you know, a very large list of legacy courses were retired by Microsoft at the end of December, and as usual, after purchase, I think Microsoft continued to support it through March 31st for anyone who had previously already purchased it and wanted to use it. And now they've completely stopped supporting legacy courses. So yes, we still are updating our legacy courses and we still support them. Now, we don't do that officially as a Microsoft lab hoster, as an official provider of MCT Readiness Labs anymore, because Microsoft doesn't officially support them. But we do provide them sort of unofficially outside of the Microsoft support, if that makes sense. And feel free to reach out to us as well if you still need access to those.
Great. And Frederick, basically, if you're an MCT, you will be able to get access to all the courses. As you can see, I've logged into one of the courses here, and you can get access to courses that you otherwise, if you were a student, you'd have to pay for, right? So this is great. I know that you can use it for training yourself. You can use it for preparing for, classes that you're going to be teaching or certifications you're going to be getting. So it's a great advantage for MCTs. Any other questions or comments?
Any other training tips?
Yeah, I'd love to hear those.
I saw, let's see, I saw someone say that they actually try to keep their videos under 1 minute, if possible. I think that was Frederick. He's now using more shorts and on YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, it's, I read that they had over 5 trillion views on YouTube Shorts. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of people watching that.
Yeah, something maybe about attention spans and even your point earlier about how people don't want to be scrolling or scrubbing through a long video to figure out exactly what they need. That if they're searching for a video online, they're probably searching for a specific solution to what they're trying to do. So it's helpful.
Yeah, it is so frustrating trying to go through, the really long video to find the one thing that you want to learn. That is for sure.
That's right. Does anyone else in these last few minutes, does anyone have any other resources that they'd like to share? William Cedric said, "Hi, Robert. It would be great if you could come back to your home profile just to take a look at what tools are available."
Now, is this the profile you're looking for, or you're looking for the old dashboard? Because in this one so far, there's not a lot here yet. If I go to the old dashboard, then this is just my list of various different certifications and things like that, transcripts and things. There is an MCT site, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, that you can find some additional things as well.
I'll also put the link to our MCT page on our website, because we have some additional resources, information about benefits there.
Yeah, talking about the benefits one pager at Microsoft MS Central dates back to July 2020. Part of my feedback on the recent survey was that, could you guys update that?
Yeah, actually, it looks frighteningly the same as the first time I ever saw it.
It does.
Actually, I remember.
This is sorry. My feedback was glaring about the fact that they don't consistently communicate. They don't update their site. So yeah, it's sad that the community itself keeps everybody up to date and not actually Microsoft.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Judy, why would William's login as an MCT look different than mine?
William's login onto the XtremeLabs platform?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
I think he might be using an older theme.
So,
William,
if this is a question about the UI, yeah. Sorry, William, are you talking about the UI for the lab platform, or the courses? If you're talking about the UI, you can update that by clicking on your profile. Sorry. So, Robert, if you don't mind, since you're sharing your screen, if you click on the RM at your mouse is already on there. If you just click on that your profile, and go to account settings. and then scroll down a little bit. You can actually, so right there where it says Classic and Gemini, these are two different themes. So Robert has already updated to Gemini, and William, if you click on Gemini and then click on Update Preferences, then you'll also see the same UI. I think you're probably still on the Classic theme.
Yeah, I don't remember making that change. Maybe it just happened automatically for me, but maybe I was playing around with it. I've had it for a while.
Yeah, we had a banner up at the top of our page for a while for folks to switch over. But I know if you hadn't been on the lab platform for a while, that might have been missed.
And then Sherry would like to know about her email. Do you see that one?
Yeah. Okay, that's a great question. Hey, Sherry. So how do we get your profile updated so we're sending it to your new info? Can you and anybody else who just has a question or wants to know more about the lab platform, feel free to email this email that I just put in the chat, info@XtremeLabs.io, and Sherry will get that sorted out. And Frederick, same thing. If you'd like to get in touch afterwards, info@XtremeLabs.io. Okay.
Great.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Robert, you mentioned a training coming up. I kind of missed that part. Could you talk about it again?
Yeah, it's called The Roles of the Modern Sysadmin, and it's going to be coming out from LinkedIn Learning. But I also heard, besides being translated, I think they said into 8 different languages. I don't have that list yet, but Microsoft has decided to put this on their site. So it's going to be available for free, as far as I know, at Microsoft.com. Now it's going to be coming out in either July or August. It's still a little bit up in the air right now. I'm not sure. They have several other live action courses they're going to be releasing all at once. So I think they're waiting for the last of the live action courses to be, completed. They're calling it live action. It's not going to be live. I mean, it was recorded, but it was us standing in front of a camera and talking about different things, and then also screen capture and stuff like that. But being a modern sysadmin, I mean, it covers not just on premises, it covers cloud, it covers interviewing, it covers, how your first day on the job would go. I mean, all these different things that I think anybody who is just entering into the IT workforce would find very useful. And I'm hoping that they do make it available for free. So, which is what it sounds like. So you can show it to any of your students as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will be posting that information and the links to it as soon as I find out.
All right, well, before we end the meetup, I just wanted to promote our second annual conference, EXL 2022. I put the page to our that site on in the chat. So that'll be starting on July 26th, and I really hope to see all of you there. You can register at that link as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be speaking at that one coming up, and got some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear yours, Robert. Robert gave a great session last year as well at our very first EXL conference.
I was very happy to do so. Now, you're making a book out of that too, which is interesting.
Yes. Yep. So we're taking the things that each of our speakers shared, and we're turning them into a book, and that should be published hopefully by the end of the summer.
Cool. As far as the MCT renewal, I would reach out to your MCT lead, your regional lead on that, which I am not. So you have a question that I may not be able to answer on that one. But yeah, if you go into the MCT site, there's a link to your lead that you can ask that question there.
Yes, and the annual conference is online. That's right. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you so much for being here at this month's MCT Meetup. We'll be holding these monthly, so keep an eye out for the next one in June. Thanks so much again for being here.
Yes, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.